Through playtesting, we found that Left 4 Dead's unique cooperation mechanics were tricky even for seasoned gamers to grasp immediately. Failing because of rules that are not clear is never fun. Therefore, we designed the game instructor system to educate players as quickly as possible. Because first-time players can potentially join an in-progress game at any point, it was critical that the game instructor dynamically interpret game events. It keeps a running list of the lessons that can be taught in the current context and displays the ones that are most important. It also tracks how many times the player has successfully demonstrated that they've learned the lesson. Once the player has proven competence at any specific lesson, the hint is never shown again.
I got your 6.
Left 4 Dead evolved some of the contextual dialogue technology that we used in the Orange Box. Each survivor has a large database of lines to choose from based on their present activity and a variety of factors, such as their health, stress level, kinds of special infected seen so far, and many others. Each line can potentially trigger an automatic response from another character, allowing rich conversations to be dynamically generated based on the player's history together in the game so far.
Another way we try and give players a new experience every time they play Left 4 Dead is that in addition to randomly placing bonus items like pain pills and pipe bombs, we vary the location of the more powerful weapons: the auto shotgun, the assault rifle, and the hunting rifle. These weapons will always appear somewhere in the main path, but there are 4 different areas in the subway station where they can spawn. This means that players can't take these positions for granted on repeated playthroughs, and must keep their eyes open for the weapon upgrades.
Hey, this weapon's over here! Hey, this weapon's over here!
Although it sounds ridiculous to talk about advanced zombie AI, we spent a great deal of time on the AI systems for the common horde. First and foremost is their ability to navigate. The environments in Left 4 Dead are geometrically complex and littered with breakable and movable objects. One of the design goals for the zombie horde was that there can never be a place where a survivor can stand that a zombie cannot navigate to. To make this happen required not only robust pathfinding code, but also path-following algorithms as well. These path followers have to continuously evaluate the local geometry around them and decide whether to crouch, stand, jump, climb over, and otherwise navigate nearly arbitrary environmental obstacles.
This covered body is an example of how we tell a story in the levels without using any words or overt storytelling. We wanted to show that there are other people in the world that are survivors like you. We figured most people wouldn't survive very long, and you'd come across their bodies, but we needed a way to set these apart from all the dead ragdolls of the common infected. By simply covering a body with a blanket or a sheet, it becomes really obvious that this guy had a buddy, a friend, and when he went down, his friend had compassion and covered him up. This also tells a story about the state of the world, that they wouldn't want to go out and bury the body. They couldn't expose themselves to infected. So they'd have the bodies right there with them, but covered. Sometimes you'll see a covered body right outside a checkpoint. So it's like they were in a safe area, and maybe during the night their buddy died from his wounds. So the next morning, the other survivors didn't really want the body in there with them, so they dragged it outside. This was the best they could do for the guy.
Smoking the set is a common film technique used to help separate background and foreground elements. We use particles and distance-based fog to do our own version of smoking. Our first experiments proved frustrating for players. We used a realistic dark fog, but this obscured character silhouettes and gave no sense of the vast surrounding environment. Once we lightened up the fog, the maps gained a greater sense of scale and distance, and the readability of characters greatly improved, so the players could more easily tell friend from foe. Fog also helped players spot important events, like zombies climbing over distant fences. So changes in visual design not only improved the look of the maps, but aided players in anticipating and coordinating their team ahead of attacks.
Early playtesting revealed that players often didn't know that other survivors were in need of help, even though the status of the other survivors at the bottom of the screen changed to red. When being attacked by a horde of zombies, we found players focusing exclusively on the in-game action and missing any changes to the HUD and the other player's status. We solved this problem by using glows around the silhouettes of the survivors' character models. We use red glows when other survivors are in need of assistance, and blue glows to show the survivor's location when hidden behind walls or far away.
In Left 4 Dead, players carry flashlights to illuminate the environment. These shadow-casting light sources not only add surface richness and provide important visual depth cues, they tie into gameplay. For example, because a player's flashlight is attached to his or her weapon, the light becomes pointed off to the side when reloading or performing a shove attack. In a sufficiently dark area, this can cause the player to be effectively blind until they are done reloading or shoving back an enemy. Like so many of Left 4 Dead's game mechanics, this encourages cooperation, as players know they may be left in the dark if they choose to reload at the wrong moment.
Before there were rescue closets, survivors who died during the game had to wait until the next checkpoint before they could rejoin. As the game matured, the time between checkpoints reached 10 to 15 minutes, clearly too long for a player to sit in spectator mode. Although it may seem obvious now, it wasn't really clear how to bring dead survivors back into the game in a simple and believable way. Once we hit on the mechanic that you're rescuing a survivor who has barricaded himself in, the problem was solved. This solution is typical of Left 4 Dead game mechanics. Hearing a trapped friend call for help creates a dramatic situation for the survivors and creates a new short-term goal for the team to accomplish. Also, finding a lone survivor that joins your team is a staple of the horror movie genre. Finally, it provides plenty of opportunities throughout the environment to bring dead players back into the game.
Reloading!
We set out to create an interesting trade-off between the pipe bomb and the Molotov from day one. Given the limit of a single item in your inventory, the choice needed to be meaningful. From early on, the Molotov was a clear winner, providing a dynamic area of denial with interesting strategic purposes and pitfalls, especially against the boss infected. The pipe bomb was intended to provide a balance against a rampaging horde, but initially it proved far less successful. Given the frenetic pace of enemies in action in Left 4 Dead, with typical engagement ranges of 5 to 10 feet, using a traditional pipe bomb in any sort of intentional way was nearly impossible. You'd see a mob of zombies, whip out the pipe bomb, and by the time you were winding up for a throw, they'd already be eating your face. No amount of tweaks to the detonation mechanic or timing solved this issue. It simply wasn't fun. Given that the horde is drawn to shrill, high-pitched sounds, we decided to take the homemade nature of the pipe bomb one step further and attach the guts of a smoke detector onto it. This provided just the element that the weapon needed. Against mobs, you now have the ability to draw them to a point and destroy them. It has the strategic advantage of being able to deflect an incoming rush from a user or a teammate who's being overwhelmed, and rarely feels like a wasted opportunity when used. Now when presented with a pipe bomb and Molotov trade-off, you have to weigh what situation you're more worried about facing next, and how the rest of your team is outfitted. The mechanics of the weapon help to reinforce fictional elements within the world while falling in line and fulfilling our initial goals for its purpose. And seeing a bunch of zombies turn into goopy red mist as the result of a big explosion never hurts either.
Crescendo events were the result of a lot of playtesting. Playtesters really love the finales, but since it can take like an hour or so to get to each one, they were missing these kinds of intense experiences along the way. What playtesters liked most about the finale was that it was the one time they were able to stop, catch a breath, make plans, and set up traps for the infected. During the rest of the campaign, you're always on the run, reacting to the infected and trying to move forward. So these crescendo events came out of wanting to get more of that planning and strategy into the rest of the campaign. These events also helped a bunch with team building. Like the minigun is really important, and if no one's manning it, your team probably won't do too well. But the minigunner is really vulnerable. They have a limited angle of view, they can't watch their backs anymore, so they have to depend on their teammates to cover them. With crescendo events on the way to the finale, we not only vary the pacing, but we help build the skills and coordination that will enable teams to survive the ultimate battle at the finale.
At one point in the development process, playtesters told us that with the exception of the finale maps, they found the experience of going through a campaign fairly flat, with not enough peak moments. So we decided to mix up the gameplay by creating crescendo events. This generator room was one of the first maps where we tried one of these events. To proceed from this room, the survivors must turn on the power to open this door, which attracts a large horde of the infected. These crescendo events create multiple peak moments that vary the pace and intensity of the campaign, ultimately building up to the finale.
Ammo here. Weapons here!
One distinguishing characteristic about Lewis is that he represents the everyday man. While Bill and Francis are characters who obviously live on the outskirts of society, Lewis is really the only one in the group who looks like he's trying to hold on to aspects of normalcy and civilization in a world of utter chaos. Designing a sleek-fitted silhouette and adding detail elements such as designer shoes, necktie, and a designer watch not only distinguishes his character from the rest of the group, but also gives the player insight into who Lewis was prior to the apocalypse.
Bomb over here. Fire in the hole. There's a pipe bomb here.
Lighting was one of our toughest challenges. We had to find a light level that was atmospheric without striking players as frustrating or unfair. Wherever possible, we let lighting tell the story and enhance the gameplay. Playtests proved that in a dark game, players will go wherever there's light. All we had to do was set up a few critical lights, and players are drawn to them like a moth to a bug zapper. This simplified lighting also made it easier to read silhouettes, so that players could more easily tell survivors from infected. And the car headlights proved to be one of our most flexible props, casting long dramatic shadows that tell a story of abandonment, while being easily positioned to lead the survivors where we want them to go.
Reloading!
Usually, each model in the game has its own unique texture maps painted specifically for that model, which give the object its surface colors and detail. To have a convincing variety of cars using this method would have required as many textures as varieties of car, plus multiple duplicates of the textures in different colors, which would have been far out of our allotted texture memory budget. So we had to find a more efficient way to bring about the same result. For example, the texture on this car is shared with 3 different car models distributed throughout the environment. In addition to this one color texture, there is also a mask texture that allows each instance of the car's painted surfaces to be tinted a different color without having to author a separate texture. So for the cost of 2 textures, you can get 4 different car models in an unlimited variety of colors.
Along with the Boomer, the tank was one of our earliest bosses. Where the Boomer broke the rule of shoot everything that moves, the tank changed the team's tactics to require immediate and direct cooperation against a single major threat. If everyone stays calm and engages the tank, they should be okay. If they panic and scatter, or if someone gets selfish and runs off, the team will likely die. One difficulty with the tank was that since we offset his incredible toughness by slowing him down a bit, when tank battles occurred in large outdoor spaces, he was far less effective. Coordinated survivor teams could easily take down the tank before he would close in on them and cause chaos. To offset this vulnerability, we added his rock throw and car slugging abilities. Now, if the tank finds himself far away from the survivors, he can still be effective by ripping up the ground and lobbing huge rocks at them.
Reloading! Watch out! Look out!
Let me patch you up.
Reloaded!
Thanks. All you want.
One of the film techniques we relied on was color correction. Color correction simplifies and unifies the visual palette. Our color correction allows us to set a specific saturation threshold below which everything falls off towards gray, while critical items like health packs and blood stay bright and eye-catching. We also vary color correction by area. For instance, safe rooms have a warm color quality, evoking safety, in distinct contrast to the cooler palettes of the outdoors, which feel cold and forbidding.
We might need these. Lock that door! Nice.
Let's do it.
Hold on, let me patch you up.
Oh, that's one I owe you.
I know we gotta move, but I gotta heal you.
Thanks. I owe you.
Wait up, this'll only take a second.